Clash Royale.
Speaking of Dust Towers, it's going to be aLive. This choice, I cannot agree with myself. Sending aLive out here.
Well, would you have rather seen Curious come out now and save aLive for later?
Yeah,
because that's really the trade-off that you're making. You know?
Actually, yes, because I think getting the win on Dust Towers is really important. And I mean, I'm not going to be shy about it. I've seen it a lot. I think this map is very Protoss favored in this matchup. If you cannot do damage early, the Terran will really struggle. And it happens. I mean, we've seen it so many times at this tournament, the GSL Star League. It's a good Terran map. That's why we see a lot of PvP, or sorry, a good Protoss map versus Terran. That's why we see a lot of PvPs and PvZs more so, especially in the best of ones in Pro League. I think this does go towards what you're talking about. They're like, well, we don't want to lose Curious here, then aLive is our anchor, that's not going to work, so that's why they're doing this, but they could have used someone else. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see what aLive can get done here. I feel like they just have more confidence in him as a player compared to some of the other players on the roster that are not Curious, so it's like, we have to use him here. You know, if he doesn't come out on Dust Towers, we don't want him on Overgrowth or something like that. So, looking at the maps and the player, I can kind of understand it here. It's definitely going to be a hard matchup, though, up against Classic, who did just take that first kill. Let's jump into the game on Dust Towers now. Here in the top right in the orange from SK Telecom T1 with 1 kill, it is Classic.
And his opponent in purple to the bottom left, it is aLive. And, you know, I understand the choice. Not a big fan of it myself, but you've got to do what you got to do. aLive shows a beautiful build yesterday versus Dark. He did, many would argue, throw the game away after having a huge lead. Dark himself even said so in the interview, but a loss is a loss, but at the same time, just like this previous set with Super, I see genius moves and smart plays and real strategy coming out here from the Freaks tonight and yesterday as well. Very impressive showing here against a team that has been in basically back-to-back finals in Pro League, and we'll see if they can bring it back tonight. So far, it's looking tough. That last map was so important because the winning team, or the winning player, Classic or Super, would be the Protoss on Dust Towers, and that's so important because now aLive has to play a TVP versus Classic, probably because there are 2 players left that are viable in this scenario, aLive and Curious. And aLive is like, oh man, I mean, I'll give it my best shot, but I can't believe I have to play against Classic on Dust Towers. And counter-wise, you know, they might have had to play zone, and the momentum could have shifted in the Freaks' favor, as they probably wouldn't be playing Dream on this map, and they didn't want to send Dark out. They also want to save him for those later Zerg maps, the same way that the Freaks want to save Curious. So it was such a momentum changer there, and so important that Classic takes that last win.
Yeah, it really was. I'm going to be curious. I'm very curious to see here what aLive is going to do on this map. You talk a lot about the horseshoe effect, where you just try to get drops down into the third base and the backdoor base of the Protoss, especially because they get that third base on this map so early on, because it's very easy to deal with any kind of pushes from the ramp, because you do have that ramp there, and it is very far away from the Terran. We already see aLive going for the double racks. It looks like he is going to go for that quick stim build with the 16 Marines, the double drop, and that really just makes sense for what you kind of have to do on this map as the Terran.
Yeah. You know, there are other variations. The Widowmine variation, obviously, that's probably what Innovation and Maru would do on this map, even though it's less efficient because they're just so good at making that work and transitioning out of that. And taking third bases, which a lot of other Terrans right now in this meta are not comfortable doing, unless they have to lift their main because something went wrong and it's like a desperation move, which is again why we see part of the, in my opinion, the rise of the Dark Shrine again. This is kind of a build that was pioneered on this map specifically by both Gumiho and Reality. They were the only ones who were not doing the Widowmine drop for a while, and then everyone's kind of figured out through Beyond as well. This is just the way to do it. It's the double drop. And we'll see how this plays out. It's somewhat predictable, and Classic is going to commit to the scout here. This is not a pylon at the ramp move. This is just simply a scout. All he has to do is come in here and look for the 2 barracks, and he will have all the info he needs.
Yeah, I like this. You know, he is comfortable enough to do this because he knows no pushes are coming in, no kind of harass just yet, so he can just come in here and recall and have enough for 1 overcharge back at home while getting the scout that you were talking about. He's also going Phoenixes here. Very interesting concept because Phoenixes are not going to be good against what he saw.
Well, if the drops get a little bit frisky and start going around into the the backdoor base, trying to do that horseshoe effect, the Phoenixes will shut that down immediately. The Void Ray is more common to do that because it does damage faster and is a real big threat. Whereas Phoenixes, if you have enough of them, they can shut it down. But usually by that time, the drop is dropped, and then your Phoenixes can't really fight the Marines and everything else that comes out.
I suppose he's going to rely on a lot of Adepts here as well to deal with the heavy Marine count. He's like, yeah, I know you're going to get a lot of Marines. Adepts are great against Marines, but also they're very mobile. So if I need to deal with something like that, Adepts can be the choice here.
I feel like this is not a bad build by Classic. He's really just trying to be super safe against anything in the air. These 2 drops are going to be the first part of that, and then after that it's going to be all about shutting down follow-up pushes, and then he could do a little bit of harass even. And if things get out of control, he could definitely shut the drops down, and if also aLive overextends, there's no retreat when there are Phoenixes on the map. Looks like he's going to do a little bit of harass and was looking for the drops in the north, doesn't see them, and this is unfortunate timing. These Phoenixes will not be useful at home. And he sees this now.
I mean, he goes in there, he's like, all your units are gone. I need to get back home ASAP.
That force field means he was clicking the wrong unit when he wanted to press F on that. You could tell that Classic was kind of caught by surprise here. This is a lot of Adepts. It's tough to commit to a Shade there with the Widow Mine. The Nexus is taking a lot of damage. He may just simply get it. If he focuses, I think he does, but he backs off instead. He's not going to get it if he does this. Phoenix is here. Like I said, there is no pickup and retreat when there's Phoenixes on the map. He doesn't get the Nexus, though, and he doesn't get really any probes either.
Yeah, and now look at aLive's position. I mean, he has no boost. It's on cooldown. He's about to get it. Nice micro. They're actually dropping over this little ledge here in the middle of the map to get away from the Adepts, but drop for the Phoenixes in the air. So he does get away just barely, but he committed a lot to that kind of build. He didn't kill the Nexus. And now Classic has a very safe 3rd base that's just going to be up and running, and the Protoss is going to be in a great spot here.
I really just feel that, committing to the 3rd base there, if he killed the Nexus, even if he lost the majority of his Marines, would have been worth it. And now it's just kind of, it's just not even viable to try to snipe it. This overcharge here looks like it might even just be slightly out of position, this pylon.
Yeah.
But the Phoenixes are going to just clean it up anyways.
Gonna rely on the Phoenixes here. aLive going to try to delay as much as possible. And at least aLive did follow this up with a 3rd base. He does have that orbital being made right now, so he can drop that down here. But even so, he is definitely behind, and Classic is in control of this game. He's going to have the better tech, and he's up in supply, and he has these Phoenixes in the air still to defend any further harass from the Terran, which is really, as we said, what he needs to rely on.
aLive, I called him the scan demon for a while, jokingly, but like that scan that you just saw right there is this moment of like, I don't really know where I am in this game because I didn't do enough damage. I want to know what tech he's building so I can try to get 1 step ahead and counter it. When he sees that bay, he's like, okay, I can't make Vikings yet. I can soon, but I know that he's committing a lot of money into this tech right now. Maybe I can hit with a small window where he only has Adepts and no AoE damage yet. The Nexus obviously lost its shields and half its health. The shields are back up now, so sniping that is pretty much out of the question, but if he gets a decent trade, he might be able to get it.
Oh boy. boy, look at this. There's no turret in the mineral line, so these Phoenixes just have free range. So aLive is going for this big drop into the main. The Phoenixes are not going to be there to defend.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually good for aLive that the Phoenixes are gone. This means he can actually execute this drop the way he wanted to. And to target pylons here to prevent warp-ins. He gets the first one. The second one still aLive, looks like just barely out of range. This is a lot of bio here. A huge Widowmine shot as well. You can see all the shields are down there. But with the overcharge here, he is going to have to pick up and leave. The problem is there's no leaving when there are Phoenixes on the map, and he just cannot leave, losing so much of his army. Glaives, +1, extended thermal lance, a 4th base. These are all parts of Dust Towers as a map. You know, you can find so much more damage on any other map than this one as a Terran, and this is the map where you're just really going to have trouble doing that real damage. And if a 4th base goes with the Protoss, it's basically checkmate with some rare exceptions.
Unless he can move across right now and snipe it and somehow stick in this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he needs to do, like, really soon. He's getting punished for being out in the map with his army.
He's kind of falling apart at this point. He's not dealing with the harass. He loses a full medevac, and he's not moving his army in the middle of the map. He's not even going towards that 4th base.
He's not being decisive. You know, he needs to be moving that army while also defending. Now he's focusing all of his APM on defending while that army is sitting there idly in the middle of the map, which could be pressuring the Nexus. In fact, it could have sniped it by now. He scans up here to kill, I don't know, I mean, maybe an observer. I'm not entirely sure about that scan on the minimap there.
And now he can move in.
He's like really, really on the cusp of doing this. Okay, does commit now, but there's Colossi here. He should get this Nexus this time. And Classic just lets it go. Not the end of the world because he did so much SCV damage back on the other side of the map.
Wow.
But imagine if aLive had done this earlier while defending, how much more of a powerful position he'd be in.
Yeah, and maybe even take his own 4th base a little bit greedier because he does need to kind of play catch-up here. In this game, especially with the Colossi coming out. And yeah, I mean, I just love the build of Classic too in this game. The Phoenixes into that. I was kind of surprised that we didn't see the Oracle because that's just kind of what we see. But thinking more about it, it just makes so much sense for the player that you're playing against, but also the race that you're playing against and the map. It really just shut everything down really, really hard.
I think it's pretty risky for the first wave of drops if you miss them, which is kind of what we saw there, but he was able to get back home in time and buy enough time to where it was okay. Save that Nexus barely with a huge adept count he built, and that was kind of the saving grace there. But then after that, it's like, you just can't fight me unless you're sure you're going to commit, because I will kill all of your drops of the Phoenixes. This is a nice find here with the Vikings. Very smart choice to go and look for that Prism. He will even catch 2 of the Adepts for a huge stim, which is, you know, okay because he still has a decent amount of medevacs, but the more times he does this later, it's going to be an issue because he's making Vikings to deal with the Phoenixes and Colossi. So he's going to have, you know, he's going to have to really kind of manage his starport build time with the Phoenixes and medevacs and make sure he doesn't overmake either or overstim and burn that energy.
Yeah, now look at this. Classic moving across the map here. And that's a very scary army. Let me take a look at how many Vikings aLive has. He has 4.
Soon to have 8.
Soon to have 8.
But it's still not enough. He needs like really 12 or so here. He has a large ground army though.
He's got a large ground army. It's looking a little bit different compared to Innovation's army, but I'm not sure that it's going to be enough still. The 8 Vikings do group up.
He has a good arc here, but I think this is just too much of the Glaives. The Colossi are not dying quickly enough. The Vikings are starting to fall here. Looks like one Colossus nearly goes down. Okay, it does go down, but this is too good of a good fight for Classic. He's not going to throw, you know, this army away, attacking into a defensible position, but he's gotten such a good trade and has a 4th base and killed all the Vikings and has a Warp Prism. And
here's
has
the follow-up. Another, you know, once you just take out the majority of the units of the Terran, you can just follow up with 2 gigantic Warp-ins of Adepts and Archons, and then just shade on top of them, and there's not much that he can do.
Well, here we go, guys. This is going to be the end of the line here for aLive. The attack comes in, even the blink forward. The Observer lives. Archons get dropped, and aLive will get dropped out of this game, which will put SKT on match point. 1 win away from advancing. GG.
Classic looking to get more and more multi-kills here. He's got 2 already. 2 kills in a row, that is tonight. Can he clean it all up? in the next matchup here. He does take out aLive on that map. It kind of went exactly as we were expecting. You know, we were talking about all the pros and cons of the different picks. And Classic just playing that so cleanly that it didn't give aLive much of a chance. There was that time that aLive did not commit to killing the Nexus. I think he would have lost almost all of those units, if not all of them. But that would have put him on, you know, even ground, you know.
Oob would have gotten it, for sure.
He would have gotten it. He would get it.
A fellow Terran player himself. We all know the fourth player. I don't even want to hype what's happening. Curious is going to be the last player. He has Overgrowth, Gettysburg, and Temple. They were saving him for these maps. I think if he took a win on Dust Towers, he would still have the Overgrowth and Gettysburg to fall back on. And, I mean, then maybe aLive could play Game 7 on Frozen Temple or something for like a final snipe build. I just really have to question bringing a Terran out on Dust Towers. I don't think I don't think they thought it was a good idea. They just were like, okay, we're going to use Curious as our last player. We've already decided. So that's that. Now, Curious is famous for being the anchor player. Is known, you know, perhaps second to him being known for being the gatekeeper of Code A and Code S for his anchor support on both Incredible Miracle and on StarTale, both teams he played for, and was really good on in the GSTL in the past, in this all-kill format.
Well, guys, we are going to be jumping into that and giving the reveal after a short commercial break.